Hey everyone, so I'd like to talk about a frequently asked question that I get from students of herbal medicine as well as clients in the clinic. And that is, do herbs have side effects? My quick answer to that is no. And why do I say that? Because I like to reserve the term side effect for a particular medication, let's say a pharmaceutical drug that has a very particular action in the body. Let's say a biologic medication that are used effectively to drive down inflammation in autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis, and so on. And so they're very effective, very strong, and one-pointed. That's what their jobs is, to get that inflammation down at all costs, right? And can be life-saving, very, very powerful medication. But they have a host of side effects, all the way up to cancer, right? And so we're weighing that risk-benefit ratio very heavily there. That is a good idea of how a medicine can have a side effect, or random musculoskeletal pains with a statin drug. You're trying to get the cholesterol down, you take a statin, all of a sudden you get musculoskeletal pains all over, and some people get that very pronounced. I'd call that a side effect. Why? Because a statin is to drive down blood lipid levels, and the side effects are anything other than that that are undesirable, right? Herbs, on the other hand, have effects. They have an effect on the system. Those effects are going to be positive or negative or neutral. And if we're using the herbs properly, understanding their taste, their energies, their post-digestive effects, their special properties and indications, and we look at guna, quality, whether an herb is hot or cold or heavy or light or drying or moistening, these kinds of actions in the body should be well understood. And when we're using them properly, they'll yield a positive effect. They'll counter qualities that are out of balance and support the system to get well. If they're undesirable effects, let's say you're taking capsicum, cayenne pepper, very hot medicine. If you're using that for circulation and you aggravate pitta dosha and have some signs of excess heat in the body or irritation in the gut or something that's undesirable, we could call that a side effect, but I like to use the term a negative effect, an undesirable effect, meaning the herb wasn't selected appropriately, and so we need to shift. And often when we stop a particular herb that is potentially aggravating in a certain way, its negative effects or undesirable effects will diminish a lot faster than a very strong one-directional pharmaceutical drug. That doesn't mean that the herb shouldn't be used with caution. They should. I've seen people take turmeric extract with black pepper extract added to it for absorption, and the black pepper extract being very irritating to the gastric mucosal membrane. And people have had even like GERD symptoms and gastritis-like symptoms from taking these. Not everyone, but some people get that. And so I like to say that black pepper has a very hot action. If you use an extract of black pepper, it's even going to have a more profound heating action in the system, and it may be inappropriate for a particular condition, for sure, especially when there's pitta dosha involved. So in this particular situation, we want to separate this idea of a one-directional pharmaceutical medication that has a very one-directional kind of energy, and an herb that can be very broad spectrum and have a lot of different properties and indications, much more vast than most medications, because medications are designed for very specific treatment. Now, there are off-prescription uses of medications which will render a medicine more versatile, like metformin for controlling diabetes, lowering blood sugar levels, may have a very significant effect on PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and from a modern medical perspective, they even see a connection between PCOS and conditions like diabetes, for instance, or metabolic syndrome, which might increase the likelihood for PCOS. It's not the only reason, but they can be connected. And so here we have off-prescription uses of medicines. We have a medicine that's designed to have one action, but it can have other actions. But it still is pretty one-directional in its effect. Whereas herbs are broad spectrum in their effect, they're much safer for that, and undesirable effects are more easily mitigated by discontinuing the medication and supporting in a proper way, adjusting formulations, and so on. So a thorough understanding of herbal pharmacology, either from a biomedical perspective, an integrative medical perspective, or from a more traditional perspective of, say, Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, where we're looking at the herbal taste, energies, post-digestive effects, special properties, guna, or the qualities of the herb, and how they match our specific qualitative needs to facilitate a positive shift in the constitution. Hopefully that helps. Look forward to more videos on frequently asked questions, and feel free to click the subscribe button below. Thanks.